The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.
With so many people living longer, the fear of outliving your money becomes a reality for many of us. Will I be a financial burden? Will I outlive my money? How will I be remembered? My name is Neil Himmelstein, president of Main Street Planning Group. Please contact me by visiting mainstreetplanninggroup.com. That's mainstreetplanninggroup.com, or call 631-647-4694. I will introduce you to strategies that will guarantee you will not outlive your money, that can guarantee you will not be a burden on your loved ones. Through a collaborative approach, we will uncover solutions that offer tax-efficient strategies, lifetime income, and legacy planning, choice, organization, direction, and education. That is the code we stand behind. Contact mainstreetplanninggroup.com, that's mainstreetplanninggroup.com, or call 631-647-4694. And listen to me every Friday at 3 p.m. as I host the Main Street Code for Financial Success, right here on 103.9 LI News Radio. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. I'm your host, Neil Himmelstein, and I'm with you every Friday at 3 o'clock here on 103.9. And if you need to reach out to me, I'm at 631-647-4694, or you can go to themainstreetcode.com and check out my website. I always invite questions and comments and any concerns that you have, and look forward to talking to you. We work with hundreds of advisors across the United States, including CPAs and attorneys who seek out our advice on insurance matters, including life insurance, disability, long-term care, and fixed annuities. And that's where we strive, and that's where we do our business. And we are here, luckily, with a guest. And by the way, our code is choice, organization, direction, and education. And today we're very excited to have with us Andrew Romano. Say hello, Andrew.
Hi.
Hi. Andrew is a financial advisor with Strategies for Wealth, and he works as a high-performance coach with people around their money, and his practice spans 25 states. He's a fantastic guy. We've had some great conversations, and today he's going to be our guest. And Andrew, if they need to get a hold of you, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so my phone number is 212-701-2550, and my email is my name, andrew.romano @strategiesforwealth.com.
Right. And I love Andrew's approach. His approach to business is more of a coach, as a financial coach, like we like to do. He likes to put together the team, very similar to the way I do, and he gave me some very powerful words. And one of the key phrases he said to me is, not knowledge is power, but action is power.
Yep, action is power. Yep,
tell me what you mean by that.
Yeah, so back in the 90s, there was a PSA campaign that ran across the country, and it has that star that goes across the screen, and it has that little jingle, dun, 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 dun. And it provided a lot, mainly for the teenage crowd, about how to act in society. And one of the common phrases that was thrown out is that knowledge is power. And that sounds amazing. And certainly education is incredibly important. But what I've learned is as we get to be adults, where that really morphs into is if we have that subconscious and subliminal programming that knowledge is power, and we feel powerless around a decision. And in my work, it's often people feel powerless around money because it confuses them. And if in the back of their mind, they're sub-thinking, well, knowledge is power, then you get a lot of, all right, well, let's think about this more, or send me more information, or send me a brochure. And I've learned that then no one acts on that information. And as I sent more and more information to people, it didn't actually solve their problem because they didn't take action. And action did not mean buying whatever I could potentially work with them on. It meant making a clear yes-no decision about a thing.
Right.
And so what I've come to learn is to be more of that advocate for people, to coach them and tell them that I'm coaching them to make those clear yes-no decisions, including working with me. I don't care if someone works with me as much as they decide, oh, yeah, you're clearly a fit for what I'm looking for, or clearly not.
Right. And that's so important. And I find that people tend to be procrastinators and they freeze and they don't move. And by being by not moving forward, they're actually hurting themselves. For instance, how many people do you know? I know we all know them, that put their money under a mattress or throw it in the bank and forget about it, and they're not going to invest, they're not going to look out, they're just going to sit on the bank. And then what happens when they're sitting with zero interest rate over time? You can, as a financial advisor, tell me what that looks like.
Yeah, so when the biggest sort of dragon, if you will, that we all have to slay over a decades-long life is inflation. And inflation is sort of that silent killer. I mean, now people kind of actually been wonderful in my work for people to have experienced the effects of inflation that normally takes about a decade to have been collapsed over the last 18 months.
Right.
People now are a lot more aware around the impact of inflation for saving for college, let alone for providing for themselves in retirement. And yeah, to your point around the procrastination, we often like to say that we provide the anti-procrastination function for our clients. But we also, in that action is power mode, that you also have to learn how to fail fast. And it's not about not making mistakes, because we will all make mistakes or we don't know the future. It's to set up your moves and your decisions and set up your money so that you have the ability to make small and quick failures of, okay, wait, that's not going to quite work. And then recorrect and recalibrate into that mode. And when you can have your balance sheet and cash flow set up in a way that you know that you have a plan around at least tackling inflation, then you're going to likely set yourself up more for success, because inflation is one of those items that really doesn't become apparent to most of us until we turn off the active income stream.
Right.
If you're actively earning income, you can sort of ignore the effects of inflation, because for most of us, even though in a lot of jobs we're making a couple percent raise every year, every 5 years you get the big promotion, you get the big bonus, you change jobs or change careers to get a larger income, and we sort of forget about inflation until we now need to turn all of our assets back into income, and now inflation really rears its ugly head because there's three of them.
Right.
So
along with that, people say, well, I'm being patient. Well, you want to be patient, but you also want to be disciplined. And you even talk about being patient and disciplined, and the flexibility of being patient and disciplined, and what that means instead of not moving to action. I like to tie the two together because I think it's so important.
Yeah, the single biggest behavioral difference that I've noticed between people who are wealthy and people who are not. And when I say wealthy, it's not rich. Rich is just having a bunch of money. Wealthy is having a certain amount of money with the right mindset around that, coming from the right place of abundance, the right place of scarcity, is patience. Wealthy people have it ingrained in them that most things with money are a plan that is best baked, not microwaved. It takes time to properly gestate and produce a long-term outcome.
Right.
And people that are trying to microwave that result are constantly moving their money around, chasing rate of return, and they lack any form of discipline around that. And what they end up having is they think they have flexibility now because I can do anything with my money. And what they don't realize is when you combine the patience with a disciplined approach that slowly and surely builds up wealth over time, not so much focusing on rate of return, but really focusing on rate of savings and then getting an efficient rate of return, will end up giving you significantly more flexibility a year, 5 years, 50 years from now that you can't microwave. You can't wait until you're 60 and then start doing all the work needed to now plan out for your 40-year retirement.
Right. And as an investment advisor, and I'm sure you'll agree, not only do you need a disciplined approach, but you also need to think about protecting what you have saved and earned through protection mechanisms and insurance, whether it's life insurance or long-term care, that plays into the whole investment strategy of growth, is not only patience and discipline, but protection so that your plan works. Because, you can't play offense all the time. You have to play defense as well. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. And I'm often talking with I now reframe that with my clients about what I call the three unknowns. And that's your health, taxes, and the markets. Taxes really being a proxy for political forces and changes in law that affect our money.
Right.
We want to set up our plan, our balance sheet, our cash flow, so that the plan works out. For example, if you get the Betty White plan of retirement, you are healthy, you live to 99, everyone loves you, no long-term care type issues, and you
live a happy life, and it's all terrific stuff. We're going to come to commercial break in a second. You're listening to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. I'm your host, Neil Himmelstein. I can always be reached at 631-647-4694. And Andrew Romano, how can they get a hold of you?
Yep, I'm at 212-701-2550.
And we're here to help you grow and protect your finances. And we're going to commercial, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. I'm your host again, Neil Himmelstein, and I'm with my special guest today, Andrew Romano, who is a financial advisor for Strategies for Wealth. And we were talking about your mindset prior to the break. We were talking about mindset that I hate when people typecast people. You know what I mean? But we know that there are certain people that are procrastinators, okay, that don't move to action, and we talked a little bit about that. Then there are people that they want to get rich quick and find that they don't have the patience and the discipline. And then you have those people who actually work with people like Andrew and myself who actually plan and who actually have a coach. And you talk about your being a coach as opposed to being someone who's selling you stuff. Tell me about that a little bit, Andrew.
Yeah, so I've learned to me, the best form of sales it occurs when I never actually have to sell something to anyone, where I just help them powerfully decide. And like we talked about earlier about just getting people to clear yes, no decision, that is my primary offer to people. When someone initially meets me, I tell them, I'm never going to convince you to do a darn thing with your money. I'm going to empower you and educate you to the point that you can be making this clear yes, no decision around whether it's working with me or a particular financial strategy or product involved, because I would have helped educate you enough so that then you can answer one key question. Is this right for me? And really, is this right for me right now? And if you're up for that kind of conversation, that kind of dialogue, that kind of sweat equity that it will take from your end to make sure I have all the information I need as far as how you have things set up and what you're up to in life, then you're helping me, as I say, learn to dance to the music you're playing. And then we can make sure that you're aligning your money not with what I would do or what Neil would do, but what you would ideally want to do with that money.
Correct.
And that takes a different kind of person. As I say, we don't have minimums of assets or income to work with us. We have minimum levels of curiosity, commitment, coachability, and communicativeness.
Right.
And I find when someone is coachable, they hear that and they light up and say, that sounds amazing. And then the people that really aren't that coachable or just want you to rubber stamp and tell them whatever they're doing is perfect, then they sort of drift away from the process, which is fine by me, because I'm not trying to work with everyone. I try to work with people that can really understand, I've got some blind spots here. I don't know everything, and help me figure this out, please.
And there's another type of person that thinks they can buy everything online. They don't need advice because they can get it from that thing called Google or Yahoo, whatever they're using, and they get all their advice from there. And I want to just talk about something that I talk about quite a bit, and that is there's a difference in not only the education that we have about product, but even if they were to buy term insurance, are you buying from a mutual company? Are you buying from a stock company? Are you buying from a fraternal company? Do you know what type of company it is? Now, Andrew does quite a bit of work with a mutual company. Can you tell me the difference between a mutually owned insurance company and a stock holding company? And I'm going to fill in a couple differences as well. But Andrew, could you go into that a little bit?
Sure. For the sake of brevity, there are two types. There's a stock-owned insurance company and a mutual owned insurance company. A stock owned company is owned by stock shareholders, people who own the stock out on the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, et cetera. The mutual company is owned by its policyholders. So a stock owned insurance company, as it produces revenue and profits from its business, now has to split those profits between shareholders first, then policyholders second. Where a mutual company, because the shareholders are the policy owners, all profits go back to policyholders.
And why is that important? And I'm gonna give you my reason, but to you, why is that important?
For me, it comes down really to two things. One, the insurance company from a mutual, when it's mutually owned, can make decisions solely in the interest of policyholders and nobody else. The people that get allowed into that club, if you will, they don't have to be producing and making business decisions or investment decisions that might juice up some quarterly profit number. And so that can also relate long-term to solvency. But I, as a policyholder, I'll likely see a higher rate of return with the values in my policy when I own it with a mutual company, because all of the shared profit pool, I'm getting a larger chunk of that versus splitting that with people who happen to own some shares in the stock of the company I'm doing business with.
Right. So a stock company is based on profit. And I'm not going to kill stock companies or mutual companies. I'm not going to kill one or the other. But I can tell you, matter of factly, many of the stock companies will offer lower prices. But remember, they're in it for profit. So what happens, though, when you talk about a product like life insurance or long-term care, you're not talking about the very word life insurance means for your life. So even if you're buying term insurance, there are maybe decisions that you can do. There may be living benefits, or there may be convertibility to something that can last the rest of my life. A stockholder company, historically, over the life of policies, and I find this quite a bit, they sometimes will change the cost of insurance. They have to get approval from the state, but the internal cost of the insurance could possibly change later on in life, where that discount that you may have believed you were getting all of a sudden starts costing you at a time when maybe you can't afford it. So looking at it from a long-term view and saying, what company am I going to pick for my client is going to relate onto a lot of things. Price is not the number one concern. Despite the TV commercials you hear, price, 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 that's BS. It is not price, price, price. It is what's going to be there for me when I need it. Period. Wouldn't you agree to that, Andrew?
Yeah, I'll take your price, and I'll just add the dichotomy of the combination of purpose and price, the combination of cost and benefit. As I often point out to clients that, especially when we're talking things like life insurance, there are three rates of return with life insurance. There's the internal rate of return, the external rate of return, and the eternal, the death benefit rate of return. And so you want to take all of those factors into play with not just the company you choose, but the amount of coverage you're seeking and then the type of coverage. And we obviously we're not getting into that today, but like as I position that to people, I find when I'm their coach, I'm just then helping them understand that there is no plan that is all cost, because who the heck would sell that product? And there is no, or who would buy that product? And there is no product out there that's all benefit, because who the heck would sell that? Every strategy, every product, every money move we make, whether we decide to spend it or save it or invest it or purchase some protection, it all has a cost and benefit tied to it. And it's just then about identifying what's the right set of costs and benefits that I'm willing to take on.
Right. And when you buy online, and whether you're doing your will, whether you're buying life insurance, whether you're buying whatever it is you're buying, if you're buying it blindly online, you're not getting the benefit at no charge to you, by the way, of somebody like Andrew Romano or somebody like myself to discuss why are you buying that product, what is it going to do for you, and more importantly, you're not going to get, I got off the phone yesterday with an agent from Pennsylvania who called me, and he has a pretty big life case that he's doing, and he was going to submit it online. I go, that's absolutely the wrong thing to do, because we like to work with the underwriting and get that underwriting correct. And you're only going to do that by talking to us and discovering what your issues are to put you in the right company and to get you the right plan, to get you the right price that's affordable, and to get you the coverage that you need. And that's what we do. Andrew, I love what you do, man. I mean, I met Andrew and I'm like blown away. He's got such great experience about working with people and thinking about mindsets and working with people's goals and aspirations. And that's what we're here to do. And you're listening to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. I'm your host, Neil Himmelstein. I'm here every Friday at 3 o'clock at 103.9. And I can be reached at 631-647-4694. And my guest, Andrew Romano, is with Strategies for Wealth. And how can I get a hold of you, Andrew?
You can reach me at 212-701-2550.
And Andrew, I thank you so much for being on the show today. You make a difference in people's lives. That's what I love about Andrew. And thanks again, and everybody have a terrific weekend.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.